State Attorney Alexia Cox and Supervisory Special Agent Bill Stewart from the FBI for sponsoring us to be here today and sharing some materials with you. Again, my name is Mark Berry. Here is Stacy Ibarra, and we have a contingent from the Sheriff's Office, including Captain Joseph, and they will be available to answer questions at the end too. My background is, I went from CFO to TFO. And I think most of you know what a CFO or Chief Financial Officer is. I had a private career for 25 years, retired a bit early, got a little bored, and started helping the Sheriff's Office with financial crimes. I actually went to the Law Enforcement Academy at Palm Beach State after retiring, and I think I may still be the oldest graduate of that academy. I graduated from the Police Academy at 60 years old. And since then, I've been at the Sheriff's Office. I'm currently employed by the State Attorney's Office as a criminal investigator. And for the past 3 years, I've been on loan to the FBI working on a fraud task force. So that's my background. Stacy, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Deputy Chief Assistant State Attorney Stacy Ibarra, and I have recently been appointed as the chief to the Special Prosecutions Unit here at your Palm Beach State Attorney's Office. When Alexia Cox took office, one of the things that was very important to her was to make sure that our senior community was being looked after and protected. And so it was very important to her that when she came in, that she set up a special unit to make sure that we were addressing those needs. And so I am the chief of that unit, and we handle cases of elder abuse, neglect, and exploitation. And we are working in the community to begin things like this in terms of getting education out there, because that's going to be one of the most important things to protect yourself from fraud, and also what to do if that unfortunately does happen to you. We're also working with all the different agencies that have an impact on our vulnerable adults, including our disabled adults. And we are working to be able to create those coalitions and to be able to strengthen the protections in our community. And so I'm very honored to be a part of something that is so important to our state attorney. Just a bit of my background is that I have been an attorney for 26 years, and for almost 20 years of that, I've been a prosecutor. I started with our state attorney's office here in 1998 as an intern and continued, and then for a short time I was over at the Attorney General's office and was part of leading the efforts at that time for the prosecution of gang racketeerings. I was the first prosecutor in Palm Beach County to prosecute and successfully reach conviction on gang members, and that blueprint that we had started is the blueprint that is still continued to be used today. And the hope is that there certainly is a lot less of the violence that there was, and so that's what we're looking to do in terms of Palm Beach County, is create the blueprint for others to follow, in that Palm Beach County is not the place where you're going to want to go to prey on our vulnerable adults. And so we thank you for this opportunity. I'm going to turn it back over to Mark.
Thank you. Okay, we'll try to go through these slides pretty quickly, and we'll take questions at the end. So if you can hold your question till the end, we'll try to answer as many as we can then. So we're going to talk about current trends, what's happening. Probably some of this, you're going to hear some of the same things that Captain Joseph probably tells you about from time to time. We're going to talk about a little bit about AI, artificial intelligence, and what role that's playing in the scam world. We're going to talk about some red flags and best practices, and give you some contact information for follow-up on some of the things that we talk about. So current trends, if you rank them by dollar volume of where the biggest scam losses are, They are mostly investment scams, and we'll talk about some of those investment scams. And secondly, and anybody know what BEC is? Business Email Compromise. We're not going to talk about that today because we're not here as a business group, but it's a huge dollar volume of loss where hackers infiltrate a company's email system, and then they get the email of the CEO or the CFO, and they send an email to accounting saying, we need to pay an urgent bill tonight for $30,000, and somebody in accounting says, oh, this is from the CEO, I gotta pay attention to this, and they wire $30,000 to ABC Company, and ABC Company turns out to be a fake company, fraudulent company. Again, we'll talk more about romance, tech support, and that's in terms of dollar volume. In terms of the number of complaints that come in, by far, phishing is the biggest complaint area. And I think almost most of you, if not all of you, know what phishing is. It's when somebody's basically impersonating someone else to try to get information or access to your computer. And data breach is similar. So who are the scammers? It used to be that scammers were local people that we could track down fairly easily. That's not really the case anymore. A very high percentage of scams are originating outside of the United States, which makes it a lot harder to find them, to catch them, and since we don't have jurisdiction outside the US to prosecute them. And I'm going to talk a little bit later about an example of some of these scammers, where they are in the world and where some of this is coming from. How do they find their victims? Every way you could think of. You know, we all think when our information is compromised, we think, I think I know where that happened. You know, I gave the waiter my credit card at the restaurant last night. He disappeared with it. He was gone for like 20 minutes. He could have made a copy of it. He could have, you know, got access to it. That's one way, but there's a million ways. Doctors' offices, I'm going to talk about that a little bit. Your medical information has a lot of personal information. All of you have heard about all the different hacks that some of us, most of us have been subject to at least one. You know, Home Depot, Lowe's, all these different companies that send out notices saying our system was hacked. So it could be anywhere, and it's really not even worth trying to figure out where somebody got your information. And who are these people? They're obviously typical criminals, fraudsters, but they're also, a lot of cases, they're actually kidnapped foreign illegals that are being forced to do this. And I'm going to, again, give you an example of what that's about, how that works. Did you want to add something here, Stacy?
Just to say that there going to be circumstances where, unfortunately, there's going to be someone that's a victim of a person that we're not able to put our physical hands on. And what that means is that if somebody finds themselves to be the victim of a fraud, and I just want to take a minute to recognize that they are victims. I know that there's a lot of times there's a narrative that will be said of how could they have fallen for that? You know, like, are you serious? They took cash and they boxed it up and, they did what this person said and they thought that was okay. These fraudsters are doing this 24/7. That is their job, that is their craft, and they have gotten good at it. And so they are good. And yes, they get people in a heightened state, and I know that we'll be talking about that later, but they get them into a heightened state so that they are not able to think about it and stop and reflect, and so they're just immediately acting. So yes, they are victims. The narrative of like, how could you be so stupid, or how could you be, we've got to change that, because we are dealing with professionals and that is their job, and so people absolutely become victims to these frauds. And if people find themselves to be a victim of these frauds, oftentimes when law enforcement investigates it, they find that the individual has been traced back to another country, or because now people are able to open up bank accounts digitally, or there's Bitcoin that we'll talk about. You're able to open up these what's called crypto wallets all digitally, where you don't have to be in person. And so you can create a fake person to create a fake account. And so when law enforcement goes to investigate where the victim's money went into, it's either a person that's not an actual real person that it's tied to, or it's somebody in another country. And so we may not be able to make an arrest, and we may not be able to do a prosecution. So what do? We don't do anything? That's not where we want to be, and that's not on the side. So what, again, with the Special Prosecutions Unit and absolutely the help of the Sheriff's Office, is what we've now started looking into is the recovery. If we can't do what we normally do, which is the arrest and the prosecution of these fraudsters, we are now have to look at an alternative means. And so the sheriff decided that he was going to invest into a crypto team, and he was going to get licenses to his folks so that they're able to track and trace these funds immediately to try to get them and pull them back and get it recovered. July 1st, our governor signed off on an amendment to the injunction for the Protection Against Exploitation statute. And what that allows us to do is to jump in immediately. Through the state attorney's office with the partnership of legal aid, we are working to file these injunctions to be able to get that money seized and ordered and back into the hands of our victims. So we may not be able to prosecute you because you've either used a name that doesn't exist, or you're in a country where we can't get you, but we're going to do everything we can to get that money back. So again, we're telling you Palm Beach County is not the place where you're going to be able to keep that money. But it all starts with all of you to let everybody know, your friends, as much as you can get it out there, that if you find yourself to be a victim, you have to put aside those feelings of how could I have let this happen to me, or I'm afraid of my family finding out that because, they'll be so mad that I fell for that. We got to get past that because they're good at what they do, but let us be good at what we can do. Let us get that money back for you, and it starts with reaching out to law enforcement so they can immediately jump on it and try and get that money pulled back. So we need you to get that out there. Let's change that narrative. Let's flip that script and say, you know what? Fine, they got me this time, but they're not getting that money. And the best shot is, as fast as it happens, to be able to reach out to law enforcement so we can use the means that we can to maybe not arrest or prosecute, but to recover.
Thank you. Okay, current trends. We'll talk a little bit about tech support and impersonation trends here. Anybody ever seen anything like this on their computer? Warning, probably most of us have. So what should you do when you see this? Most of us sort of panic like, wow, my computer's going to be locked up. Do not call the number on the screen. Do not click on anything on this screen. If you think your computer might be compromised, if you have a software protection package like McAfee or Norton Virus Protector, call them directly or go directly to their website and make contact and ask them if they're aware of anything going on with your computer. They're probably going to say no. Do not respond to this. Even if you think you may have a problem, do not respond to this page. It can only get you in trouble. How about this? Anybody ever got a message saying your UPS package can't be delivered? All of us have gotten it. I get them almost every day myself. So same thing. Even if you have a U.S. Postal Service package that's out there that you're waiting for, just wait for it. Don't worry about this message. Just delete it. It will probably come, and if it doesn't come, you can contact the company you ordered it from and talk to them about it and tell them you never got your package delivered. Do not click on anything in this message. It is 99% likely that this is a scam message. They're trying to get you to click. As soon as you click, they're getting access to you. They may be installing a virus onto your computer. Just delete it. And in most cases, the urgency of getting your package today versus tomorrow is not that great. I mean, maybe if it's medicine or something, you need it today, but I know 99% of my packages, if they come a day later, doesn't change my life. and I'll contact Amazon Prime or whoever I ordered the package from and find out if there really is a problem with it. Tolls. Anybody seen the Florida toll text message? So, Florida toll system does not do any billing or collections through text messaging, period. SunPass does not do anything through text messages for anything to do with money. They might send out a text message in some sort of emergency situation if an interstate or a turnpike is shut down for a big emergency, but it'll never be about money. So you can be guaranteed if you see something about highway tolls, it's not real. Do not pay it. If you want to call SunPass and ask them if you have an outstanding bill, I think you can actually check online. You can actually go to SunPass. I think you can enter your license plate and see if you have any outstanding tolls or unpaid bills. So ignore this. Separately go to SunPass online or call SunPass, their toll-free number. And if you're concerned, now a lot of people will say, well, I got this, but I haven't even been on the turnpike for 8 months. So obviously I'm not too concerned. Do not click on these, do not reply to these. There are a lot of impersonation schemes. We're going to talk about a few. Financial institutions. Has anybody ever got called from someone saying they're from their bank, that their bank account's been compromised, they need to freeze their account, they need to give them a new number, you need to give me some information so I can move your money to a new account that we're going to open for you? Do not listen to these people. If you have a concern about your bank account, either go to your bank branch, wherever you do your banking, or if you don't drive or don't want to go, call your branch, or call, if you have a debit card or credit card from your bank, call the 800 number on the back of it and say, someone contacted me and said my account's been compromised, and ask them if it's true or not, if there's any compromise. Do not give out any information. Same with the IRS. The IRS does not solicit people for late bills over the phone or online. They just don't do that. And if somebody calls and says you have a IRS liability that has to be paid by midnight tonight or you're going to be arrested, that it's urgent, how many people here have ever seen that level of urgency with anything to do with the IRS? Has anybody ever had the IRS do something for you within 24 hours? Nothing happens that quick at the IRS. So the IRS just does not do this. They do not solicit bills or payments on the phone or by text message or email. It will be regular mail. It'll come to your address, and it'll have a number for the IRS or an irs.gov email address that you can contact. And then what I call friends and family emergencies. I know you've all probably heard of this, but we're going to hear just a very brief video example of one of these scams.
Grandma Shirley says her nightmare started when her grandson's caller ID popped up on her phone. The 89-year-old heard her grandson's voice.
When you got this call and you thought it was your grandson, what was the person on the phone saying to you?
I broke my nose and I have stitches inside my mouth. And I was upset and I said, "What happened?"
Then she says another person, identifying himself as her grandson's attorney, told her her grandson had been arrested for hitting another car and a pregnant woman. She was told pay $9,000 in cash and the charges would be dropped.
I just thought to myself, I have to keep myself calm enough to get my grandson out of jail.
The San Diego grandma went to the bank and is seen on ring cam video handing over $9,000 in cash to a man in a baseball cap. But then came another call, news about the pregnant woman and her baby.
And I have to tell you that the baby has died. And I became hysterical.
You must have been pretty scared, right?
Just terribly, terribly upset and actually scared at that point. I was scared for my grandson.
The caller demanded another $5,000 since the charges would now be more serious.
I'm not supposed to say anything to you, just thank you.
Yep, she paid up and was scammed again. She finally realized she'd been hoodwinked when she called her grandson and found out he was okay.
I was just humiliated. I was shamed. How could it possibly happen? I'm not supposed to say anything to you, just thank you.
So I know you all have seen things like this, but just a couple of red flags in here I want to point out. The caller says, I broke my nose, I have stitches. Anybody know why they said that? Yeah, they initially often say, I've got laryngitis, I broke my nose, I got a cut on my mouth, because their voice isn't going to sound exactly like your grandson's or granddaughter's voice. Then they don't want you to be suspicious. So they're going to have some reason why they sound different on the phone. A lot of people have said, this guy came to the door and picked up the money. Why didn't somebody, snap a picture of him, get a good description, snap a picture of his license plate as he drove away? Well, that's in all likelihood an Uber driver or a DoorDash guy or somebody who's getting paid to go pick up an envelope or pick up a package. It is highly unlikely that that person that picked up the package has anything to do, or maybe even knows about, the crime that's going on. One reason you could tell that is because she was told, you remember when she said, I was told to not say anything to you, just say thank you? And she was told to say that because if she starts talking about, oh, my grandson and this law case and lawsuit and everything, the driver who's picking up the money might get suspicious, say, wait a minute, he just told me I'm picking up a legal document to take to a law office or something. So that's another clue that she's not allowed to tell the guy anything about why he's there to pick up an envelope filled with cash. And by the way, they said earlier that for $9,000 they would drop the charges. I think we could ask our PBSO friends, have you ever offered to drop charges on someone you've arrested if they give you an envelope filled with $9,000? It doesn't work that way. As much as everybody would like that, that's not how we do business. It doesn't happen. So I've talked about some of these, the urgency, anything that you get called on that has an urgent aspect to it. It's an emergency, you have to do something now, you have to act fast, don't call anybody else, don't check anything, do it quick. All those are red flags. If you hear that, it's probably a scam, because most situations like this don't have to be resolved in a matter of hours. Investment frauds. We're going to talk about a couple of these. Ponzi schemes, I think most of you have heard of Ponzi schemes. Basically, it's usually offering a high rate of return to somebody in exchange for investing, and when they invest the money, that money's being spent by the scammer, or part of it's used to pay small returns to the people that invested before them. But they're not real investments. And you would think after years and years about hearing about Ponzi schemes, and everybody in South Florida is familiar with the Bernie Madoff story, that it would be hard to get away with it. But I'm working on 2 Ponzi scheme cases right now. And they're with victims that are smart people. I mean, one of them's a very successful business executive. And, it's not just happening to any specific group of people. It's happening to everybody, and people still like hearing about returns. I'm working on a case where someone was promised a 2% return per week on their money. If they put in $100,000, they'd get a check for $2,000 every week. Well, that, 52 weeks times 2%, that's over 100%. That's doubling your money every year. Does anybody think there's a lot of investments like that out there right now? I know my banks aren't offering that rate. Market manipulation, we're not going to go into that, but that's mostly penny stocks. Stockbrokers, if a strange stockbroker calls you and tries to solicit business from you, obviously, you should not deal with them. You should only deal with trusted people. ICOs, anybody know what an ICO is? Initial coin offering. So this is in the crypto world. And there are a lot of new coin offerings. And a very high percentage of them are fraudulent. Not all of them. I mean, if anybody here bought Bitcoin 10 years ago, they know, they legitimately have made a lot of money since then. But a lot of the offerings are fraudulent, and I would get a lot of background before I would ever consider investing in an ICO. And then we're going to spend a few minutes on confidence schemes and romance schemes. Is anybody familiar with the term pig butchering? It's kind of a crude term, but the easiest way to think of it is someone gets a victim that they think has a lot of money, and they, as you would in the farming world, they fatten them up before they butcher the pig. So they work on them and build up to getting as much money as they can. So, and again, this may not apply to a lot of people in the room, but this is a case where someone starts communicating online. It could be male to female, it could be female to male, it could be, same-sex relationship. There's no single rule, but in the most common examples, it's a man who is communicating or thinks he's communicating with an attractive younger woman. And usually it starts out as just a social interaction, and then at some point, in the most recent case I worked on, a woman had a long social relation online with a guy, and they talked all the time. She didn't ask for any money. Ultimately, after a number of months, she said, I have made a fortune in the past 2 years. My uncle is a foreign currency trader on the London Exchange, and he finds out about foreign currency movements the day before they're posted. And he shares that with me. And she shows him a picture online of her account, like she started with $100,000 and she now has like $8 million in her account. And she says, I can open up a sister account to mine, and we know each other pretty well now, and you can trade with me. And this guy in this particular case started putting money in. He put in $4 million. Again, this is not this is a business guy who's still working, who's a pretty smart guy who got enticed into this, put in $4 million, watched his account go up to where it showed like $12 million. At that point, he got his mother to invest some money and one of his siblings to invest some money. And ultimately, the plug was pulled and he lost everything. He lost his whole life savings. So that is an example of pig butchering. While you think you might be talking to this attractive younger woman or attractive younger guy, this is often what it looks like at the other end of the phone. That is a phone bank in Southeast Asia. Are you all familiar with the country Myanmar? Used to be called Burma. It borders China and has a long border actually with Thailand. Myanmar now is kind of a haven for fraud scammer camps. And what's happening is people, a lot of them from China, are being offered jobs overseas if they speak English. And the job might be, you're going to get to work at a high-end restaurant in Manhattan, or you're going to work at a high-end restaurant in London. You're going to make $70,000 or $80,000 a year. You can send back a lot of money home for your family. And these people sign up for it. They all board a plane, a chartered flight. The guy organizing this collects everybody's passport, says, I'm going to get you through customs when we land and get you set up. The plane takes off. It lands in Myanmar. It doesn't go to New York or London. The plane lands in a kind of remote airfield, and there's 2 or 3 buses there, and there's a bunch of armed guards waiting. And they get off the plane, and they escort them onto these buses, and they take them to a camp that's essentially a prison camp. It's essentially dormitory buildings that are surrounded by barbed wire and have a lot of rooms that look like this with phone banks. Each of those phones in this bank represents a different scam that's going on right now. So they estimate there's still over 100,000 people in Myanmar who are essentially captives, essentially kidnapped prisoners. And I mentioned that at the very beginning, and this is what I was referring to. But the person on the other end of the phone, or texting or emailing, might actually be a Chinese national who's been told that he has to generate $30,000 or $40,000 worth of scam revenue before he can have his passport back and leave. And that's how a lot of these work. And the Thai government, the Myanmar government are trying to work on this problem, but it still exists, and this is where a lot of these things are happening, and this is where a lot of the so-called pig butchering is originating. I think we covered kind of the scheme of pig butchering. Romance scams are kind of more basic. That's just getting to know somebody over the phone, over the internet, online. Often the person you're talking to has some reason why they're really remote and you can't meet with them. So if it's a woman talking to a guy, the guy might be working on an oil rig in Kuwait or something like that, where that's his reason why he can't meet you in person all the time. But ultimately it starts out, again, socially, and ultimately there's an emergency. My mother needs emergency surgery. She needs $10,000. My account in Kuwait isn't liquid. I can't move money overnight because of the company I work for and the assignment I'm on. If you can transfer $10,000 to this account, I'll return it to you by Monday. So, I mean, that's the typical sort of romance scam. Again, it's never a good idea to ever loan or send a penny to anybody that you don't know in person. Money mules. I used to think money mules were people that carried like a backpack filled with cash across the border to take drug money back to Mexico or something like that. And those are money mules. That is a money mule. But the money mules we're talking about here are a little different. They're people that unwittingly or wittingly move money for somebody. So I don't know if anybody in the room has ever been asked to deposit a check for them. Like this is a pretty common scam where somebody you maybe have been in contact with, you know, a vendor, a lawn guy, somebody you know somehow, says, I'm getting a check for $10,000. My bank account's frozen because my identity was stolen. I can't use my bank account right now. I need to deposit this check. If you do me a favor and deposit it in your account, I'll let you keep $1,000 and just give me $9,000 back. Just take out $9,000 in cash. Well, as you know, if you have enough money in your account, you can withdraw it. If you have nothing in your account, the bank might put a hold on it for a few days. But even after a few days, usually you can withdraw it. So the person withdraws the $9,000, gives it to the guy, says, I got $1,000 in my account. Sometimes it takes up to 8 or 10 days before the bank notifies you that, hey, that check you deposited was counterfeit and fraudulent. And we're issuing a chargeback. We're charging back your account for that $10,000 you deposited. So now you have a $10,000 deduction out of your account, and you're overdrawn. You've lost all that money, and this person's gotten away with the $9,000 in cash that you gave them. That is what we call an unwitting money mule. So don't ever deposit money for anyone into your account unless you know them, unless it's a friend or relative that you know and trust. Just don't do that. There are also witting money mules, which we won't talk about because I don't think anybody in this room is going to knowingly participate in a scam where they act as the bank account for the fraudster who's collecting money. Did you have something here, Stacy? Or?
Just again, legally, in terms of, it is to be quite frank with you, oftentimes difficult to be able to get a successful prosecution on these types of cases. And again, like I tell you, they're experts in what they're doing. And so as it relates to the money mule aspect of it, a lot of times with law enforcement, they're able to track and trace, and they'll find the funds where the money went into somebody's account. And so there's often the perception of, okay, well, we know the money went there, go arrest that person. We need to prove that that person is part of the fraud, because just as, Investigator Berry explained, that person could be a victim themselves. They could have fallen victim to being the romance scam, and there's so often where they have a conversation that sparks, and it's, I want to come and see you, I want to come meet you in person, but, my bank account got shut down, but I can have a friend send you some money and deposit into your account and send it to me, and I'll take care of the flight. So they're not a willing participant in understanding that they are actually part of a bigger fraud. So even though law enforcement's able to find where the money went, the law requires us to prove that that person had a criminal intent, because we don't want to be putting cuffs on somebody who was a victim themselves. But we also have to be careful, and this is why, again, the education is important to let everyone know, is that you don't want to get yourself in cuffs because, you're caught up in part of some fraud. And so we want to make sure that people understand that, this happens where they're saying that, I can't reach my bank account, it got shut down for whatever reason, I'm going to have a friend deposit money and things like that, that they start getting those red flags and that they start understanding, hold on, wait a minute, what's going on? And these also can just start just from a simple text message that says, that I've gotten multiple times, is, something as innocuous as, hey, are you still on, are we still on for dinner tonight at 10? And then what they're hoping for is that somebody responds and says, oh, I think you're texting the wrong person. Or who is this? They're just waiting for a response. Or even the one I got the other day is, basically Mutt's, appointments at 10 a.m., it's really important to make sure that they get there, make you tug at your heartstrings, be like, oh, this person really needs to know that, about their dog's appointment. Let them know. I'm sorry, this isn't the right number. You need to let whoever it is know you've texted the wrong number. They don't care. That's just to get a live person. And so that develops into now all of a sudden, somebody's communicating back and forth, and they'll take their time, they will take their months, and then, oh, I'd love to come meet you in person. Let me send that money into your account, and then you can get it to me.
We're going to touch very briefly on artificial intelligence. We have one more short video clip. But let me mention something that relates to artificial intelligence. When people do call and say, is this Mary Jones, try to not use the word yes, no matter what. Try to not say yes. And the reason I say that is because some scammers they're recording you, and they're recording your voice saying yes, and they're actually then recording a conversation where they ask if you're interested in purchasing a supplemental insurance policy for $1,000 a month premium, and then they play your voice saying yes. So try to say who's calling, what's this regarding, but if you can avoid saying the word yes in your own voice, it's a good thing. So this is a little bit about artificial intelligence.
Phone scams are nothing new, but thanks to artificial intelligence, they are getting more sophisticated and more believable. Scam artists are now using AI to clone voices to trick unsuspecting victims. CBS's Carter Evans takes a look at this frightening new technology in our continuing series, The Age of AI.
Jennifer DeStefano will never forget the frantic call she got from her 15-year-old daughter, Brianna.
And she was, Mom, these bad men have me, help me, help me, help me. And this man gets on, very aggressive, listen here, I have your daughter. And then that's when I went into panic mode.
The man demanded $1 million.
I said that wasn't possible. So then he came up with a $50,000.
She never paid the money and would soon learn the call was a popular AI scam. New software can recreate the voices of loved ones in distress, and scammers use that to ask for large sums of money.
This man comes on the phone. He said, "You're going to give me $5,000.
I heard our daughter on the phone. Like, it was unmistakably her.
Americans lost nearly $9 billion to fraud last year alone, up more than 150% in just 2 years.
Younger people experience fraud and fraud losses more often than older people, but it's that older adult who has so much to lose.
Cybersecurity expert Pete Nicoletti created My Voice from old news reports online. What you're about to hear is something I never said.
Hey, this is Carter. I need your credit card number right now.
I mean, that really sounded like me.
It is you. It's cloned you. It's AI Carter.
To test it out, we called my mother.
Hey, I'm about to do an interview, but I have a quick question. I need you to text me your driver's license number as soon as you can.
She fell for the fake voice.
I feel bad.
I feel terrible
we
about
just
it.
scammed my mom.
Did you just get a call from me?
Asking for my driver's license number?
Yes. That was an AI-generated voice.
Oh, God, Carter, that's scary. Is this the real you now?
This is the real me now.
We live in a post-real society. You can't trust the voice, you can't trust the photo, and you can't trust the video anymore.
A voice is like a fingerprint, and that's that unique fingerprint that's being exploited and weaponized. It has to stop.
And Nora, the technology is really improving. Soon, scammers will be able to react instantly to anything you say by converting their voice into the voice of your loved one in real time.
Carter, this is scary stuff, really eye-opening. So what can people do to protect themselves?
Well, there's a couple of things you can do right away. And the first thing is to create a safe word that only your family is going to know. Secondly, you want to make your social media accounts private. Don't give that information away to potential scammers to use against you. And finally, if you get one of these calls, hang up, call them back, make sure they're really in trouble.
Carter Evans, thank you.
This is growing. It's going to keep growing. I mean, the technology is getting better and better to copy your voice, to copy your photographic image, and you're going to hear more and more
Phone
about this.
scams are...
Well, let's go low tech for a minute. We only have a few more slides. We're close to done. But we've been talking about technology and AI, but you should also be very aware of some low tech scams that are really prevalent now. And probably your sheriff's office contingent has talked about this too. Check washing, checks in the mail. Has anybody in here had a check that got altered and cashed or attempted to be cashed by anyone? It's a pretty common problem. This is a case, I don't know if, Stacey, you're familiar with this. I don't think you worked on this, but this is a case that we have at the state attorney's office right now that involves Detective Jennifer Jones, who's on our state attorney task force. And it involves somebody who stole and washed or altered $300,000 in checks locally. So how are they doing it? Well, in this case, and in many cases, they're stealing checks from one of those blue mailboxes that you drop envelopes in. How are they doing that? There's a couple ways. One is they're getting access to the keys to those blue mailboxes. So contrary to what you think, the keys are fairly universal. There's not just one key in the country, but there aren't a lot of different keys. I think each region of the Postal Service has a different key. They're stealing the keys from mailmen. In some cases, we found where they purchased the key, where a mail carrier has sold their key for $5,000 or $10,000 in cash, and then reported their key lost or stolen. And that's how they're getting into these boxes, taking the mail, opening all the mail, and looking for checks that they can alter. Another way that I've seen is that they've made these thin canvas bags with hooks on the end that they shove into the blue box and put the hooks on the side. And when you're dropping your mail in, it's going into this canvas bag instead of dropping to the bottom of the box. And then they're coming by at night and pulling this bag out and getting your mail out. So, we used to say you could use a certain kind of pen, a gel pen, which would be much harder for them to wash. They're basically erasing the stuff on the check with an acetone compound, and then they're filling it in with a bigger dollar number and either their own name. In this case, this guy recruited, I think, 9 people to open bank accounts, and he deposited checks made out to those 9 people into those accounts, and in most cases he gave them a little cut. He didn't put his own name on it. So, you know, I would have said a year or two ago to get a gel pen, but now the technology is so good that it doesn't even matter. A lot of times when they get a check from you, they're able to scan the check and create blank checks that look like your check stock. It has your name at the top, an address, the same. They're basically making a high quality copy of your check that's blank, and they're able to scan your signature off the signature line and use your signature. So mailing checks, a lot of people say, oh, I'm going to avoid all this technology stuff, I'm just going to mail checks. It is not necessarily safer to do that. I actually try to totally avoid mailing any checks. I almost never mail a check anymore. If you're going to mail them inside the post office. Detective Jones told me that this blue box that he stole them out of was actually one of the blue boxes in front of the post office. So, you know, I would have said, well, try to go to the post office and do it. Don't go to one of these boxes that are on a residential street where, you know, it's kind of hidden. But I wouldn't even say do it at the post office. I would say if you have to mail something, go inside, mail it inside. Maybe here at your community, it's more secure to leave your mail in a central place than it would be if you lived outside the community. All right, just some red flags. Again, we've talked about most of this. Anybody asking you to pay in an unusual form, like gift cards or cryptocurrency, that's not a normal way to pay for things. We all know that. That's not how we normally buy stuff. So that's a big red flag. If there's urgency, it's a problem. You have to think about it. Does anybody know what KYC is? I used to think that stood for Kentucky Fried Chicken. It's actually Know Your Customer. So FinCEN, which is a financial entity that's part of the U.S. Treasury Department, has issued Know Your Customer rules to all financial institutions. And they're required to issue what we call SARS, Suspicious Activity Reports, on unusual transactions. Cash transactions over $10,000, a bank account, like if your bank account typically has $1,000 in it, and all of a sudden you make an $80,000 deposit, and then a couple days later you withdraw $79,000, that's a suspicious activity in your account. So they're required to report on that. Has anybody gone to the bank and tried to do a cash withdrawal that's kind of big where they've given you a hard time, where they don't want to let you do it? That is part of KYC. That's part of the FinCEN rules where they're assuming some responsibility for suspicious activity. And if you don't normally withdraw more than a few $100s at a time, and you come in with some sense of urgency and say, I need $9,000 of cash right now out of my account, out of my savings, they will ask a lot of questions. And the scammers will tell you, don't tell them what it's for, don't answer their questions. I've recently had somebody who tried to withdraw money for a scam. An elderly woman made an attempt at her bank. They would not let her take it out. She went to another branch, they wouldn't let her take it out. She went to a third branch and they let her take it out, and she lost all of it. So there's a reason. If the bank's telling you, we don't want to do this withdrawal, there's usually a reason, and it's not because the bank teller is that concerned about just keeping your money at their branch. Again, do's and don'ts, I think we've talked about all these. Delete spam, don't respond. Contact the bank directly if somebody says you have a banking issue, and just don't engage with scammers. Block numbers if you can, and just hang up on them. Even if you feel bad doing that, just hang up on them. Okay, the last couple of slides are about some information. A lot of people ask about credit freeze. So I've had a freeze on my credit for at least the last 5 years. People ask, is that a good idea? I think it's a really good idea. It's not very hard to do, and I'm going to leave, if Don's still here, I'm going to leave Don with a couple copies of this so you all can get copies if you want it. But it's not very hard to freeze your credit, and that prevents people from, if they do get your ID somehow, it prevents them from opening up credit cards. You know, I've had a lot of cases where people say, I have $100,000 of credit card debt because somebody opened 3 cards in my name and ran up every card to the max, and I don't even know how they did it, but they're coming after me now because my name and my address is on it. This will most likely prevent that from happening. And most of us aren't opening new credit that often anyway. And we're not buying that many cars, we're not buying that many new homes. Younger people need to access their credit more than we do. So it's not that hard to unfreeze it for a week. If I go to buy a new car, I can unfreeze my credit for a few days or a week, and it will automatically refreeze. So it's very easy to do, and I would encourage it for anybody who's concerned about identity theft. And then these are other resources. Again, I'll leave a couple copies of this, but these are other good resources for people to access if they have issues, questions. And one of the good ones on here that most people don't know about is IC3.gov, the Internet Crime Complaint Center. And it's very easy to use if you just go to IC3.gov. If you have been scammed or a scam has been attempted, I highly encourage you to go to this website. And the reason I say that, because a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to like report something to some big government agency. It's just going to be lost in space. Well, I work in an environment where the analysts in our office actually get notified when there's more than one complaint about the same thing. So if 3 people in the country go online and post something about a guy that has an investment company called ABC Investment that's trying to raise money and it's fraudulent, we get a notice of that if it's in our region, if it's in South Florida. And we look at those. And a lot of the cases I've investigated have started by multiple complaints about the same scam or same problem on IC3. So it's a great resource, and I would encourage anybody. It's very easy. It's pretty user-friendly when you go to push buttons to type in what you're writing about. So with that, I'll open up to questions. Stacy's happy to answer questions. Our PBSO associates, I'm sure, would be happy if to answer any questions if it applies to them. And I'll start with one question I get. Probably the most frequent question I get is, do I have to give my Social Security number to my doctor? I think a lot of people ask that all the time. So, and what I say is that you don't, by law, have to give your Social Security number to your doctor. By law, the only place you have to give it out medically is if it's Medicare or Medicaid related. But if it's just a private doctor, you're not required by law to do it. So I usually leave that blank. If the office comes back and says the doctor won't see you unless you fill this out, you have a choice, because just like it's not a law that you have to give it to them, it's also not a law that the doctor has to see you. The doctor can reject you as a patient. The doctor could say, if you don't put your Social Security number there, I'm not going to see you. So for me, I don't put it down if they say you have to. I'll put it down if it's a specialist, a doctor that I really want to see. If it's a doctor that's doing some routine checkup and I'm not that concerned about that doctor, I might go to a different doctor. Yes?
The last 2 slides, if I could have a copy of those, we will print them, put them on a community website.
I brought them for you. I'll give them to you as soon as we're done. Okay, question? I'll repeat the question if you want to share it, so everybody can hear it.
I recently Googled an item to purchase. I was led to Amazon to make the purchase. It looked exactly like the Amazon website, because I use it all the time. I look at the price of the item, and I said, it's too good to be true. This can't be. So I called one of the companies that sell the item, and I said, is it possible to sell this item at this price? They said it's a scam. How do we know when
So the question is, I Googled an item. It took me to a website that looked exactly like Amazon's webpage, but the item was really cheap, like almost too cheap to be true. And how do I know it's real? Well, the answer is write down the name of that item, close that window, and go to your Amazon page, where if you have an Amazon account, go to Amazon.com, and then in the search bar, type in that item and search for it under your Amazon page. So you know you're on Amazon. Okay? Yeah. Yeah, there might be, there are ways, and it gets, I think, too complicated to explain here how to research whether that web page is real. Just close that web page and start over and go to Amazon. I mean, that's the only safe and easy way to do it.
I was asked for the last 4 of my social security number, and you would think that would not be enough to get me, but it is enough to get you.
Yeah, again, it depends on, oh, you mean to get you scammed? To share? Yeah, the question, the comment is that just giving somebody the last 4 of your social might be enough to get you caught in a scam. Anybody have any thoughts or comments about that?
So yes, Detective Chris with the Palm Beach County Sheriff Office Financial Crimes Unit. So a lot of times when they're asking you for the last 4, is they're phishing. They're going to start calling places where you possibly are banking, and a lot of places will ask you for the last 4. So combine your last 4 with your date of birth and your full name and address, and they can essentially get more information from you. So the least information you give out to someone over the phone or someone that you don't know, the better it is.
Yes, ma'am.
I've gone to my doctor's office, and I've given them the last 4 with no problems at all. I've also had problems when someone else, other than the doctor, was asking for it, and I refused to give it up.
Yeah, so most of the time when you give the last 4 of your social to your doctor, it's not going to be illegally used. I mean, the exception would be where someone in the doctor's office, sometimes a receptionist or a clerical person, will have a boyfriend or girlfriend who commits crime, and they'll convince them to bring home, some records so they can copy some numbers. But that's not an everyday occurrence. It can happen, but most of the time in your doctor's office, you won't have a problem. And that was the point I think this woman made. Yes, ma'am. Fraud. So the question is, what about family frauds? Do you want to take that, Stacy, or Matt? If someone in your family is stealing from your estate, for example, a family member.
Well, a family member would be just like any other suspect. If you want to file a police report about a crime you're alleging, then we would get the report and do the investigation, irregardless of who they are. Yes, you would start there, yes. Yes. Yes, that's an option to you as well. If you have an attorney, obviously that would be a person you would consult with to give you advice and guidance on what's best for you to do.
I could just add to that is that if somebody is a victim of a crime, whether it's from a family member, a trusted person, whoever it is that took something from them that they were not authorized to take, that person is a victim. And they certainly have a right to an attorney, but attorneys do charge money. And as a victim of a crime, you can contact the police. And if we're able to put together a case, it will go through the prosecution stage. And then the prosecutors, like myself and those that are working with me, will remain in communication with the victim and talk about the process all along the way and make sure that they're informed so that they would be able to do that process without without hiring an attorney. However, again, you have a right at all times to hire an attorney. I just put that out there just to let folks know that if you hire an attorney, they're going to charge you money, and you may be spending more money to try to get your own money. Listen, we're still here. If you think about it again, you just shout it right back out. So the question was, what if the person who took your money or took something from you that they weren't authorized to do, and they don't live in Palm Beach County? You can still contact your local police department. And the reason is because we want to, and we are here to protect our Palm Beach County citizens. And so if your funds were taken, we will, if put together a case, we will bring them, and we actually just had somebody brought in today from California who was doing the exact same thing. It was somebody who was stealing from an account that they were not supposed to, but it was one of our citizens, and we were able to put the case together, and they were just transported from California and were at the Palm Beach County Jail this morning. Yes.
We're told not to give our social security numbers. However, we purchase a lot of things online and on the telephone where they ask for our credit card number and the security code.
Yes.
How is that really any different than, let's say, the social security number? That's a secure thing as well. How do we protect ourselves from that?
So the question is when you purchase things over the phone, that you're often asked for your entire credit card number as well as the that personal identifying. If it's American Express, it's on the front. Other credit cards, it's on the back, like a 3-digit number or a 4-digit number. So they're asking for that code. The reality is that that's what the companies will need to make sure that they are dealing with somebody who actually holds the card. It's an attempt at trying to stop fraud. So they need that information. That doesn't stop people from taking that and committing acts of fraud. So what I would recommend is that is the best use of credit cards. Right now, debit cards, they all come with now credit cards. MasterCards, Visas are attached to your banking accounts. And so those cards can be used as a debit card to go to the ATM, use a PIN number, and pull cash. Or it can be used as a credit card. And if it's used as a credit card, it takes the money directly out of your bank account. And so if that is compromised, that money is coming directly and immediately out of your bank account. However, if you use a credit card company that is not directly tied to your bank account, you've got the opportunity to be able to dispute that charge and say that, no, that wasn't me, and then they will launch an investigation. But if you are using your debit card or any card that is associated with your bank account, that money's gone, and then you can ask questions, but you may not be able to get the money back. So my recommendation is do not ever, repeat, ever, bold, underscore, use your debit card that is also a credit card that is attached to your direct banking account, whether it's Publix, gas station, anything. Anytime you need to use a credit card, use it from a credit card company not attached to your bank account.
I have a question back here.
Just one other point on that. The level between giving out your social security number or personal information versus giving out your credit card number are like miles apart. So credit card companies are pretty good about stopping payment or disputes. Once you give out your social or your date of birth and social, now somebody can just open a whole new world of, they can create another you, and it's much harder to stop. So I would say using your credit card's one thing, you could stop those. It's way less risky and severe as using your social security number or date of birth. Yeah, question in the back?
Yeah, when we travel, what I do is I have 2 credit cards. One, I basically freeze it because I tell them how much money I'm spending, and I give them my itinerary where I'm going. And if they look at it and they say, well, you're in this country and you only spent $10,000, that's not what we said. So they automatically cancel it. To me, I find that to be the best way to do it.
I would recommend everybody have alerts on their credit cards. You can set alerts on your credit cards. The first time I set an alert 10 or more years ago to flag any transaction outside the U.S. on my credit card, I flew to Costa Rica to visit my son who was working there. And I went to an ATM to get local currency, and I put my card in the ATM to get a few $100s local currency. And as I was pulling my card out of the ATM, my phone started buzzing with an alert. That's how good the alerts are. I mean, instantly, I got an alert. Someone is trying to use your credit card in Costa Rica. So alerts, again, if you're not sure how to do it, go to your bank branch, have somebody help you. You should have alert dollar limits, out-of-country limits on any credit card you have. One more question in the back.
People are of the opinion that as long as they only give the last 4 digits of the Social Security number, that they are safe, and that's not so. If I have the last 4 digits of your Social Security number, I've got your whole Social Security number with your birthday. It is coded out that way. It is your birthday coded into the Social Security number. The only number that is valid and not is the last 4. That's why they only ask for the last 4.
So the comment is, don't give out the last 4. It's
If you
almost
can
as bad
avoid
as giving
that,
out your whole number.
You're giving out your whole number if they got your birthday.
Any other questions? We'll take one more question, and then we've got to wrap up. Pardon me? Okay. So, we talked about this a little earlier. The point is, and this is rampant. So, and I don't know if you guys have a lot of experience with durable medical equipment or other medical fraud, but it's rampant now. People finding out. One of the people on our state attorney task force actually had her Medicare account compromised. It's rampant. I don't know why it's so easy for fraudsters to take money, to imitate you and bill things through your card, through your number on Medicare or Medicaid, but it is rampant. And check your statements regularly. Look for anything that's out of the ordinary. Make sure to call if you see something on your card. A lot of people don't do it because they say, I don't care, it's Medicaid paid for it anyway, so I don't care. You should care because ultimately all of us are paying if we let this fraud go on. So any other closing comments any guys have?
Guys, one last thing, cryptocurrency. By show of hands here, who has any cryptocurrency? You do, sir? Majority of people don't, right? And essentially, it's uncontrollable, out of the reach of government currency. And scammers are using that to take advantage of our system, to take advantage of our seniors. So please do not send anybody any money during cryptocurrency. If they're asking you, law enforcement, state attorney's office, no one in the United States as of right now takes payment in cryptocurrency. Okay, so if someone's asking for any type of payment involving cryptocurrency, hang up. It's automatically a scam. Okay, so please be wary of that because it is very difficult to trace. It is very difficult to recover that money. And once it's gone, it moves lightning speed. So please tell all your friends to stay away from cryptocurrency as much as they possibly can. That's all.
And just to let you know that there are ATMs, and unfortunately, they are popping up every single day here in Palm Beach County. There are crypto ATMs, and what that does is when, again, one of these professional fraudsters gets somebody on the phone and they're trying to get money, they will have them take their ATM debit card and they will send them to a crypto ATM. It looks exactly like a regular ATM, and you put your card in and it will transfer taking money from your account and put it into crypto. There is, to date, that I am aware of, not one single legitimate reason to be using those ATM Bitcoins. So if somebody is sending, and get the word out, if somebody is sending somebody to use a Bitcoin ATM, they need to stop what they're doing and they need to reach out to a family member or a trusted person to just get involved and say, they want me to go to this ATM, because there's no reason to be using these crypto ATMs. And the biggest message, again, is that if you or anybody else that you know finds out that they have been a victim of a fraud, do not be afraid. You are a victim. It is okay. It happens to everybody, regardless of age, because they are professionals at what they do. But the fastest way that we can try to get any type of recovery is going to be if you contact law enforcement. On behalf of the State Attorney's Office and on behalf of the Federal Bureau of Investigations, as well as the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office, we are grateful to have this opportunity to come in front of you. Thank you so very much, and stay safe.